And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenters for today. First up, I have Sal Khan. Sal Khan is the founder and CEO of Khan Academy, a nonprofit with a mission providing a free, world-class education for anyone, anywhere. Sal began his tutoring his cousins remotely as a hobby. Over the past 2 decades, his efforts have grown into a global learning platform used by more than 180 million registered users in 190 countries. Khan Academy is pioneering the use of AI in the classroom with Khanmigo, an AI tool designed to serve as both a tutor and a teaching assistant. Khanmigo is used in more than 380 school districts across the United States, as well as in India, Brazil, and the Philippines. Thank you so much, Sal, for being with us today. Next up, I have Doug Fisher. Doug Fisher is professor and chair of educational leadership at San Diego State University and a teacher leader at Health Sciences High and Middle College. Previously, Doug was an early intervention teacher and elementary school educator. He's a credentialed English teacher and an administrator in California. In 2022, he was inducted into the Reading Hall of Fame by the Literacy Research Association. He's published numerous articles on reading and literacy, differentiated instruction, and curriculum design, as well as many books such as The Teacher Clarity Playbook, Your Introduction to PLC Plus, The Illustrated Guide to Teacher Credibility, Instructional Strategies that Move Learning Forward, and Welcome to Teaching. Thank you so much for being here, Doug. And next up, I have Nancy Frey. Nancy Frey is professor in educational leadership at San Diego State University and a teacher leader at Health Sciences High and Middle College. She's a credentialed special educator, reading specialist, and administrator in California. She is a member of the International Literacy Association's Literacy Research Panel. Her published titles include 50 Strategies for Activating Your PLC Plus, The Illustrated Guide to Visible Learning, Welcome to Teaching Multilingual Learners, Teaching Foundational Skills to Adolescent Readers, and Rigor Unveiled. Thank you so much for being here, Nancy. Just a huge thank you to all three of you for being with us and letting us learn from you today. And with that, I'm going to hop off and I will hand over the mic. I think I'm handing it over to you, Sal.
Well, I'll just start saying a couple of quick words here. This is really exciting to have worked on this with Douglas and Nancy. My journey into, was introduced a little bit of my journey into Khan Academy, but my journey into AI in education really started about 3 years ago. Sam Altman and Greg Brockman from OpenAI reached out. This was months before ChatGPT existed. GPT-4 hadn't been out. They said they were training their newest model, which would be GPT-4. And they wanted to partner with a group that they thought could show the social positive use cases. They thought of us. And when I saw that, and I think I was maybe one of the first 5 or 10 people outside of OpenAI. I don't think even a lot of folks at OpenAI had seen this technology. It blew my mind. It felt like I was talking to an alien intelligence. I think many people have had that experience since then. I immediately saw a lot of possibilities here. As Megan mentioned, I started tutoring my cousins, and with a little bit of prompting, this technology seemed to be able to emulate what I remember I said, "You are Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society, and you're going to tutor me," and it did a great job. I remember, I know Trump can sometimes be a polarizing figure, but I asked it to write the Declaration of Independence in the tone of Donald Trump, and it did. It's going to be the best country ever. George III's a loser, and I'm like, oh, it's not bad. But then it was obvious that there's a lot of issues too. How do you handle cheating? How do you handle especially younger people not understanding what they're working with? How do you handle transparency to educators? And so that's when Khan Academy got on its journey. And in this book, it's kind of broadly divided into teaching about AI, teaching for AI, and teaching with AI. We kind of started at the back end at Khan Academy because we've always been focused at how do we improve academic outcomes? How do we personalize things more? A lot of people know us for our math work, but we also go into the sciences. We're increasingly going to the humanities and reading comprehension. And so we immediately imagined our AI agent, Khanmigo, as being something that could help teach you with AI, but then even go beyond that. And we even extend some of those ideas in this book. But it's very exciting to be able to collaborate with this team. that put this book together, because the number one thing we hear from educators is, okay, it's great that Khan Academy has these efficacy studies. It's great that y'all are able to leverage AI in thoughtful ways to support both teachers and students. But I also want to teach my students about AI. I also want to do, I also want to do richer things that I couldn't do before. And we talk a lot about these in these quests that you can now do. And my hope over time, I think the book is already ready to use. And with existing things that are out there, but I hope over time Khan Academy can incorporate more and more of it, to really make it as easy as possible for folks to implement some of these ideas. But I'll pass it on to Nancy and Doug.
I was just having a flashback of an old video I saw of you. I think it's with one of your children, and there was like a AI tutoring thing. Do you remember this video?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. This was a year and a half ago. Again,
Yep.
OpenAI reached out. They had just done their model, that their advanced voice and vision model.
Yeah.
And I'm always eager to see what's new. And they're like, what kind of demo would you imagine? I was like, it would be really cool if it could screenshot Khan Academy and it could act like a real tutor. I will, and I brought my son, and I give a lot of credit to him because he's precocious at math, but he had to pretend like he didn't know the Pythagorean theorem. A lot of his friends even YouTube gave him some grief
Yeah.
about that. Social media is a very harsh place. His friends have defended him. No, Imran knows the Pythagorean theorem. But yes, it was to demo. But to be very clear, that technology that we demoed, that was the fifth take. The thing kept making errors. So some people, it was a proof of concept of it was a prototype, but I don't think what we demoed last May is ready for prime time. And that's why you actually don't see that same technology yet in Khan Academy either.
Yeah. I do think when I saw it and I saw you two interacting, I thought, well, this is the future. And what I appreciated about at least what we saw, and there's a little story about the background, is it never told him the answer.
That's right.
And it kept pushing and prompting and cueing, and it would guide and support, which is, the ideal teacher. That's what we do. We don't just tell kids answers. So that was for me kind of one of the watershed moments of the potential with AI. And so, as you heard, there is a lot of work the world is doing with AI. It's been super exciting to work with our colleagues on this project. We'll do a couple highlights about this and the work, and we'll kind of interact with you all. Please keep the chat going. If we say things you want to ask clarifying questions, there are three of us on here, so one person could be talking and the other people can be chatting. So have at it. Nancy, I'll turn that to you.
Well, and I so appreciate your comments, Saul and Doug both, because it's really an exciting time in the sense that it is certainly challenging us as educators to think and examine more closely what it is that we do in teaching and how is it that we can leverage the human intelligence that we bring to the classroom, that our students bring in their learning. How can we leverage that human intelligence to be able to really work with and alongside of artificial intelligence? And Andreas Schleicher certainly has reminded us for many years now that what our fundamental role is as educators is to prepare students for their future, not our past. And I think one of the challenges that we have as educators is that we certainly bring a steadying force to what education looks like, and we always have to be responsive to what are the changes in society. And I'll offer, just as a reminder, how very quickly this profession pivoted when there was a pandemic, and we figured out as a field in a matter of weeks how it was that we could begin to deliver education in a different way. It was the necessity of being able to do that. But I'll turn my attention to the World Economic Forum. And last year, as they do every year, they create a Future of Jobs report. So this was last year's for this year that we're in right now. And the way that they talk about skills is especially in being able to project what are the core skills that are going to be needed in 2030. There are predictive models around that as well. And certainly you can see distributions, those black dots represent technology skills. Those are really important to be able to do. But also, please note the cognitive skills, the engagement skills, the self-management skills that are there. So let's just kind of zoom in a bit on those core skills that the World Economic Forum discussed as well. And so here's a little bit closer shot of that. We realize that there are a lot of data that are there. And yes, certainly having that technology literacy, being able to work with AI, being able to work with big data, those are important. But also look too at some of the things that we have been doing as educators for many years around creative thinking, around being able to develop resilience and flexibility, as well as things like curiosity, lifetime learning. I'm just going to go ahead and say that everybody that is on this particular webinar already has that idea of curiosity and lifelong learning that is there for them. Now, having said all of that, there are boomers versus doomers. And in this particular case, boomers are not folks that are in my generation necessarily, but rather when it comes to AI, there are some boomers that are like so enthusiastic about AI. It's going to save humanity. It's going to do all of these amazing things. And on the other end of the continuum are the doomers, which is basically the robots are going to rise up and kill us all, right? And I think it's fair to say that we fall somewhere in the middle, ranging into the boomers side of the argument. There's tremendous potential there, but we also have to be cognizant, acknowledge what some of the potential pitfalls are. And I will offer that many folks talk about, well, it's plagiarism. Kids can just put things into the chat bot and they can cut, paste, copy, and off they go, right? And that certainly is a real concern for that. But I will also say as well that what it signals to us as educators is that we need to think differently about how it is that we're creating tasks, that we're creating those opportunities, not just to make assignments AI resistant, but to really build on what it is that AI and us together in partnership can offer around creativity, sparking up curiosity, and so on, and really being able to construct those opportunities to bring that into classrooms and bring that outside of classrooms. Now, I'll offer as well, as we look into the very near future, that in 2029, the PISA assessment, which is a study of learning among many countries around the world for 15-year-olds, focuses on mathematics and reading and science. And beginning in 2029, they're going to be adding media and specifically AI literacy to its assessment. That's just right around the corner. And Sean, there's extensive information about PISA on the UNESCO World site, as well as OECD as well. And it's a way of being able to create some of those comparisons about what's happening in and across countries.
Oh, sorry. So the future is using artificial intelligence. I don't think anyone, boomer or doomer, can avoid that conversation. AI is here to stay. Genie's out of the bottle, whatever the language is people say. We have AI in our lives. It is present in our lives, and it's been around for a long time. It's more accessible to us today than it was, but it's been around. And it's been designed to help us think. We think of students as AI explorers and the teachers and educators, leaders are their guides. As Sal said earlier, we decided to organize this, and quite frankly, we move these things around a lot. Like, how do we, like, what comes first, what comes second, what comes later? We ended up with this order that there's some need to teach students about AI. Now, Nancy, what do you say? I said carburetor. Is that what I told you the other day? And you're like, cars don't have carburetors, and we had this argument.
Right. They have fuel injectors.
Fuel injectors, yes, I know. But so we do believe that there should be some under the hood. That young people and all of us should know things about how this works. That doesn't mean you have to know everything about your carburetor, your fuel injector, and things like that. But you should know the difference between your light switch indicator, your turn signal, and your windshield wipers. So there are some things we argue that you should know about AI. And then we're going to spend the time today on the human intelligence skills teaching for AI. And then the last part, and I think this, the Khan Academy kind of thing is also, how do we build quests? How do we build learning quests that bring the curiosity to young people? Because I get tired. And Nancy and I were at school all day today. Today's day 4 of school for us. I get tired. Chat doesn't get tired. It just keeps going on the quest for as long as that kid wants. That learner is there. It goes back and forth and interacts. So this session, we're mostly going to focus on that, although you're welcome to chat with us about other things in there, about the other areas. But we're mostly going to talk about the human intelligence skills. And then by the end of our time together, what are some of the skills students need to develop to be responsible and ethical users of generative artificial intelligence that we want to build? And I saw this in the chat earlier. How do you teach kids to respect this and use it in ways that are responsible?
There is just a growing amount of research around the uses of AI in educational settings. And in fact, this one came out earlier in this year, and already there are at least 100 more that have come out since then as well. But these researchers in particular looked at what was the impact of being able to use, in this particular case, it was ChatGPT. Looking at that and what that impact was on improving learning performance. And they were able to generate a decent positive impact on that as well. But they also noted, and they have those cautions in there as well, noting that there remain a number of shortcomings. Including generating incorrect answers at time or triggering academic plagiarism, and in some cases causing students to become dependent on technology. So we're already getting warnings of what it is that we should pay close attention to be able to avoid. And as I noted earlier, what it also requires then is that we have to think a bit differently about how it is that we are not only delivering learning, but creating those opportunities for learning to actually happen. We're not just as educators providing information, giving information, and hoping that our students absorb all that information. We know that that's not effective. All right, but we've got to be able to create those environments where students get lots of opportunities to be able to explore through curiosity, through creativity, but then also to be able to do some of those other important skills, like how do you engage in some prompt engineering? How do you pay close attention to verification? Is this information accurate? Does it reflect certain biases and so on? And I just wanted to welcome as well another one of our co-authors, Megan Hargrave, is also on as well. You may see her being active in the chat as well. Hello, Megan. Thank you for joining us too.
And you saw Brett's comment too about the learner permit to test drive AI. I mean, I think there's all kinds of things there. I also see Jim Marshall, another
Jim's here too.
And co-author. Thank you all for joining us and chatting. So what we did, so there's all kinds of studies on AI, and Nancy said they come fast and furious. And we started creating an analysis of what are the skills that young people would need to be able to successfully navigate in an AI-enhanced world. What would be the skills that we should be teaching and assessing? And when we started collapsing these and learning about them, trying them out in our own environments, and then writing about them, we started thinking about K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9, 12. Now, you'll notice that some of these skills have been around for a long time. We hope we're building curiosity in young people. Now, curiosity in an AI-enhanced world is a little different. We hope we're building dialogue, but the dialogue is definitely different. It is still dialogue, but it is dialogue with an AI system that has an architecture and how it responds. And so these skills, and some of them are much more specific. We didn't really talk about prompt engineering 4 years ago. These are the skills that we say rose to the top that educators need to embrace, teach, maybe even have the permit license for. My guess is, and I'm interested in my two colleagues on this webinar and those of you in the chat, I suspect we're going to find more skills. I suspect some of them will eventually start to fade away. As AI systems get better and better and better, they interpret what we want in terms of a prompt. We still have to interpret the output. So I think that there's, right now I would say, these skills are skills we have to be thinking about. And then we have to keep on the lookout for what other skills. What we thought we'd do is watch a teacher, a colleague of ours at Health Sciences, introducing, this is in a career technical education course, business. And this is her personal finance course in the business sequence. And as we watch, please feel free to live chat what you see Sarah doing. I would love a culture of appreciation of what you notice in Sarah's class as she introduces her students to a task. Now, they're several weeks into personal finance. Someone recently said to me when they saw this video, I think the students need to still know spreadsheets. And I had a, I don't know moment. Like, how much do you really need a spreadsheet in the future? So, we're having to think about this. But anyway, please feel free to live chat as you watch Sarah.
What's the difference between using AI to cheat and using AI to think better? I'm Miss Holly. I'm teaching a personal finance course, and today we are learning how to create a budget for a fictional character using artificial intelligence.
I think one of the biggest differences is that one is just using it to copy and paste, and the other one is to understand the subject that you're being told to study on.
And how would you use it to understand a subject better?
Yeah, I do research on presidential doctrines.
I use it for sentence starters to start what I need to write about.
Today we'll be learning how to create a realistic personal budget using AI tools and financial reasoning while practicing responsible AI use and effective prompt writing. So I asked ChatGPT, what's the best way to be a prompt engineer? And this is what it recommended. You give ChatGPT a role, you give it a task, and then you include as many details as possible. So everyone's gonna have a different person that you're creating a budget for. So they all have different occupations, they have different hobbies, and they have a couple different savings goals. Create an initial prompt. So don't accept the first response, refine it, make sure it's detailed, make sure it's something that your friend will find helpful. Are all of your budgets accounting for savings goals? Right? The point of the budget is to have savings for the future.
I personally made a little twist on it to make it a little bit more interesting. I want a high-risk portfolio and to account the changes with my savings and my goals.
Say your friend loves animals and found this really cute dog online and they just caved. They went for it, they got the dog, it's now their responsibility.
Can't afford a dog.
Yeah, but they did it, they went for it.
Yeah, I need to find a new home for the dog.
What are some expenses that your friend will incur with a dog?
Pet insurance.
Yep, pet insurance. Breezy?
Haircuts.
Yeah, haircuts. Grooming. This project is important because students will think of different aspects that go into a budget, but then also use ChatGPT to make further suggestions. AI is going to be an inevitable part of our students' future and our future as teachers. And that is why I think it's important for students to understand how to use it as a tool. What did ChatGPT generate for your fictional character to create some extra income?
My person is a paid software development intern, so it gave advice like tutoring programs and build and sell simple tools or app or technical content creation.
Gia, what decisions did you make that ChatGPT couldn't?
I thought of like cutting back on how much the profile was eating out instead of cooking at home.
Budgeting is like a lot of about consumer behavior, psychology. Is someone gonna want to give up going to their favorite coffee shop or give up traveling in order to stick to a budget? And everyone's different in that way. Can ChatGPT tell?
The only person that can tell is the person who's got the budget. To teach responsible use of AI, I think is essential amongst teachers, administration, to have guidelines around how to use it properly in a manner that can increase your learning, and not just saying what, but how.
I think this topic is especially interesting because I'm learning alongside the students. Artificial intelligence is rapidly expanding, and AI can be used to enhance learning for both teachers and students.
And as I put in the chat, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of teachers, they don't write 30 different scenarios or 35 different scenarios for students. We just run out of time. She was able to create a different scenario from every kid in that class. And that was part of what she was able to accomplish as a teacher with AI in her lesson design. And then the students interacted with those scenarios. Yes, and I appreciate Brett's comment. They're learning with and about at the same time. So we have a bunch of those skills we've talked about. Many of them are evergreen. They've been around for a while. There's nuances with those skills, and a few are newer to us through AI. And so one of the skills I wanted to highlight in our time together is around data literacy. It's a big topic now. People are talking about data literacy, what we mean by data literacy. It's an important topic to be thinking about with our young people. And data literacy includes things like data exploration, visualization, data management, data use. And I think we have to have young people start to say, like, what does that mean? But I would like to go way back. Dubois, is widely credited with pioneering the use of data visualizing in his work and his team's work on social advocacy and racial justice. And in the Paris 1900 Expo, his team created a series of graphs and charts and maps that visually represented data. And now we have this record of this person and a team of people who created data visualizers. So the data visualizing is not new, 1900, but what we do now with our technology might be different. So here are some of the examples around the data visualizing. And some of you know this one. It didn't look like this on your watch or on your wrist. It looked like this. But the inspiration came from data visualizing and how we could help people visualize the data. Now, in our resource, what we've done is we've taken each of those skills and we said, what would it look like in K2? What would it look like in grades 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12? So we've got these ideas of skills. How do we create a progression? And honestly, at some point, when we start teaching these skills, we need to assess them. We need to know how students develop some proficiency with these skills. So we don't want AI to be reserved for high schoolers. We understand the use issues and the use cases. But what if we took the skills for AI and started really developing them with young children, upper elementary, middle school, and high school? Now we're going to take one of these skill progressions in a moment with Nancy. We're going to go in more detail. One of the things I will comment, if the support is in bold, so you see this one, data detective chart, a graphic organizer, red flags, source analysis, they're in bold, then Megan created a downloadable tool that you can use with students. So there's a lot of them. I mean, a couple hundred of them, I believe, of supports and tools that you can use to teach that skill.
Sorry, Doug, I had to turn my microphone back on again. And prompt engineering is another one of those skills that it's a bit more specialized right now. How is it that you can really have AI work alongside you as as a way to be able to kind of do some co-planning and those sorts of things. And so let's talk a little bit about what prompt engineering actually looks like. You know, I had an experience not too long ago in working with a group of teachers, and what I realized that they were doing is that they were writing prompts in AI very similarly to what they wrote in their search engines. And remember, we'll kind of rewind some time a bit as well. There was a time when search engines were new for us, and we had to learn how it was to be able to do that. AI works a bit differently from that. And here's perhaps a model for what those prompts might look like, that you're providing the context. You are clear about what it is that you're asking for. Make sure to tell it some rules and provide some examples. It's kind of a way of being able to map, if you will, for being able to do so. So let's take a look at one example of this from a teacher-facing side. So I'm a first grade teacher working with students on phonics. That's a great context. You're already setting up the context for that. Here's your ask. I need a decodable text that that they can use to practice short vowel sounds. But now give it some rules. In other words, some guardrails to be able to put out. This should be focused on 5 to 10 sentences that are focused on words with a short I and short E, and should be about topics like dogs, SpongeBob, or swimming, obviously drawn from what this teacher knew about their own students. And then giving an example is really helpful as well. The words should be simple 3 to 4 letter words and have very clear short vowel sounds like E and I, like ship, slim, and so on. Being able to create some prompts like that helps the chatbot to be able to understand what it is that you are looking for. I had a colleague at San Diego State a couple of years ago say something to me that has always stuck with me. He said, treat AI like it is your intern. When you ask it to do something, you need to be specific about what it is that you are actually looking for. So it's really important that you're clear on what it is that you're looking for, and that you always keep the human in the loop, that you are making sure that you're bringing your ideas, your thoughts, your wisdom in order to be able to understand what it is that you want to use and what it is that you don't want to use. So that's an example from a teacher standpoint, but let's talk about teaching this to students so that they know how to be able to do this as well. So here's from a student who said, for the ask first, help me think about some story ideas for a realistic fiction story by asking me questions to brainstorm ideas. Now, here's a really important thing. You're probably going to need to help students with what that ask is going to begin to be able to shape that. Give it some context. I'll be writing about a 5th grade kid who just moved to a new city. Provide some rules for it. The character wants to make friends quickly. Here's an example. I just finished reading and I'm inspired by the main character in the book Wonder. Now, let's just kind of pause on that for a moment. And you are exactly right. Now what you're asking AI to do is to work alongside like a tutor. This is exactly, and Sal's book talks about this quite a bit as well, about the idea that what it is that we want to be able to offer for all of our students is that ability to be able to think alongside them, to be able to engage in the kind of questioning and wondering that causes them to think. Now, I, for many years, was an elementary teacher sitting alongside of students and kind of working one-on-one with students to help them brainstorm. It's great if you only have one student that you need to sit alongside with, but chances are you've got 25 or 30 kids that are in your classroom, and it's just not possible to be able to assist students in that moment when they need that kind of support in order to be able to do so. So let's take a look at that student's prompt and what the results were. And I love that the AI engine in this particular case asked questions. It didn't spit out a story for the student. Instead, this is what the chatbot said. Well, what's your main character's name and personality? What's one thing your character misses about their old home or school? Who is the first person to talk to your character? Are they friendly, unsure, or maybe even mean? And how does your character feel and act when things don't go as planned? Boy, if I was sitting next to that student, those are exactly the kinds of questions that I would ask that student. It's just not always possible to be able to provide that level of Socratic questioning in order to be able to get the student to engage in the thinking. And I know earlier there was some conversation that we were all having in the chat about cognitive debt, right? If you're only creating prompts where students can just copy and paste, then we're not doing what it is that we have considered for thousands of years to be good education. And that is to be able to engage with that student in dialogic instruction to get them to be able to do the thinking. And so teaching students about how it is that you use AI as a Socratic partner is really important. In fact, one of the things that that we're really excited about around Conmigo in particular is that it really is geared and scaled to be able to do that, to be able to pose questions in particular. One of our colleagues at school asked her own daughter, who was this summer a rising fourth grader, and here's what it is that Sonoma had to say.
What skill did you learn today on with the AI tutor?
Simple algebra.
How old are you?
9.5.
Okay, what grade are you going into?
4th grade.
Prior to working with the AI math tutor, did you know anything about simple algebra?
No, I just wanted to learn it.
So how did you, because you got to just play on the AI math tutor while mommy was at the gym, so how did you find out about simple algebra?
So I just typed in what is the most hardest question in the world. And it said there are many hard concepts, and it said it gave some examples, and then I thought of another one, algebra, that's like with the letters and the numbers. And so I typed in algebra, and then it said what type of algebra. I put simple questions of algebra, and then it gave me simple questions, and it walked through the steps with me.
Did you use the Singapore math that I gave you, or you just used the AI tutor itself?
I just used the AI tutor itself.
And then why didn't you use the Singapore math?
Because it wasn't on there.
But this part right here, like, why didn't you decide to use that?
Because the Singapore math, there's no algebra on here.
So you wanted to challenge yourself more than that? Did you feel like the Singapore math was a little bit too simple?
And that's 5th grade. This is 5th grade.
Okay, did you try the 4th grade? And was that too simple? And then was the 5th grade too simple?
This is 5th grade, and most of it I could actually answer.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
I so appreciate the curiosity that this child shows. I wanted to ask it, what's the hardest problem in the world? There is nothing like a 9-year-old who is able to ask questions that as adults, we have long ago sort of let go of and forgot of. I love her curiosity in being able to do so. And as Doug noted earlier, for each of these skills, we've got a skills band that's broken down and what some of those supports are. And yes, we can teach around AI beginning in the primary grades. For example, thinking about a number of the things that we already do really well. Again, leveraging that human intelligence, certainly around being able to use sentence stems and those kinds of things, but then also being able to create supports for students, like what's your wonder wall of prompts. At this age, it's very possible that the teacher is actually using AI in front of students and doing some of the modeling, being able to bring voice, for example, to think aloud about how it is that I'm considering what those questions are. Let's go a little deeper as we move into those intermediate grades, helping students to be able to learn about not only format requests, but being able to evaluate that AI output, revise those prompts, to be able to engage in that dialogue that we want students to be able to do, whether they are face-to-face or whether they are working with and alongside of AI. As we move into middle school, and not only what are some of those prompt revision checklists that can be helpful, but also introducing some role play scenarios to be able to practice. And that's exactly what you saw Sarah doing earlier as well, with having lots of different scenarios and then getting students to be able to engage in each of those. And at the high school level, students are learning how it is to be able to apply different prompt styles based on the audience or the tone or the domain, being able to design prompts for creative tasks such as speeches and scripts and so on, and especially engaging in those comparison tasks. Which prompt works better and why? There's lots of verbal reasoning that's happening as we engage students in that kind of thinking.
So again, there's lots and lots of skills. These are the ones that we identified as bubbling up that need to be taught. I want to think about this aloud with you all. Social media came on the platform. By and large, we educators did not look at the skills for responsible and ethical use of social media. And I honestly think we're paying the price for not thinking about what skills will young people need to successfully navigate a world in which social media dominates their experience. They are on social media, some are addicted to social media, some are not feeling good about themselves because of social media. A lot of the technology leaders don't allow their children to be on social media. And we've been reading about that and writing about that. And I just have to wonder, had we been aware and thinking about social media and its impact on young people and taken an approach that is cautious and instructive and said, what skills do young people need to successfully navigate that? Would we be in a different place? It's a question I can't answer because we didn't do it. What I can say is we learned from social media and our lack of teaching responsible and ethical use of social media. And I hope this time around, as this technology is embraced, it's part of it, genie's out of the bottle, whatever language you like, how do we teach young people to be ethical, to be responsible, and to use this amazing resource that the world has, and to develop skills to use it in those kinds of ways? Thanks for hanging out with us today. Questions, you're welcome to ask more in the chat. Great to see you, Nancy and Saul. Always great to work with you all. I hope this got you interested, because there's still a fair amount of reluctance with AI, but I hope it got you interested. Like, there are things we can do. Nancy, any comment? Saul, any more comment?
I think there's such an opportunity there for us to really be able to show our own students what it means to be a lifelong learner. We all say that as educators, but for everyone, for educators who are leaning in and who are saying, I need to learn more about this, I need to be able to understand what this looks like, not only on the teacher facing side, but how it is that I can use the very best of what this offers in my classrooms to be able to promote the kind of critical thinking, the kind of verbal reasoning, the ability to be able to engage in lateral reading, to be able to engage in verification. That's exactly what it is that we want to be able to accomplish.
And I'll just say a couple of quick things. One is it's very easy, especially in AI. Things are moving so fast for folks to feel overwhelmed. I'm in the middle of a lot of this. I live out here in Silicon Valley. I feel overwhelmed sometimes. But what I want to remind everyone is it's still very early days. And just the fact that you are at this webinar, and if you try some of the activities that we're talking about, you try things on Conmigo, the teacher tools, take a look at what's in this book. You are going to be on the leading edge of AI, and this book is written in a way that we think it's pretty evergreen. The AI tools are going to change. Who knows if people are talking about Gemini or ChatGPT or Grok, or who knows what it's going to be next year, the year after. But I thought a lot about a lot of what the activities are. Even in a world where AI becomes more verbal or it becomes more visual, a lot of these same ideas are going to be applying. So encourage everyone to take a look. Don't be intimidated. Jump in. You're going to be a early person on this adventure.
With that, just thank you again to our amazing presenters and for all of you for attending today. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Be well, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.